Well, good day and welcome once again to Moments with Dr. Steve. I'm Dr. Steve Bonenberger, and we're going to be talking about cultural blitzkrieg again. And it is a topic that now has become utterly personalized for me, not that it wasn't before, because my family in the last 48 hours has been directly impacted. And I'll be talking about this in days to come as I get and gain consent from my family members to do so because it has been a pretty difficult last couple of days on this end of the camera. Hi, and I hope your life is good. We are working right now through the Writer's Covenant composition and compilation, one of my great pieces of literature, and we're setting the scene for the heroic character to arrive. And what we're going to be talking about today is force multipliers. We're going to be talking about force multipliers. We must all understand and grasp that the things that are happening around us are real and not imagined, and that we are not fabricating misery in any way. Not that we live miserable lives. Do not hear me say that. None of us are. I don't believe in victimization, and I also believe that all of us become victims. But I believe we're, especially as believing Christians, that we're to work as overcomers in the culture that we're placed in. And so we now plow deep and far into what are force multipliers that become embedded and so enmeshed and lattice worked into the culture that they bring forth and summons the great heroic character. The main thing I want you to get your mind around right now are planned intrusions that work like lattice weaved fences to unravel and then overthrow social order. I'm going to say that again because I think it is happening at scale inside of the continental United States. Um, I believe there are planned intrusions that work like lattice weaved fencing to unravel and overthrow social order. I believe there are always masterminds. I believe there are always larger than life figures. And I believe that there are puppet masters, maybe not a singular or single faced puppet master, but I do believe that person can emerge. But I believe certainly that there are master marionette, uh, string pullers who imagine scenes and craft ambitions and find and forge sinister alliances and finance evil deeds. If we're starting to see anything emerge that's an important thread, I think, inside of our own nation, we're beginning to see people asking the question, who is financing these events? Because none of these events can happen, in a vacuum, can they? None of them can operate without the gasoline, the fire, the fuel of economic support and economic capacity, can they? Puppet master. Remember, the strong man is always behind the curtain. He or she lives in hidden places. They live inside of castles that others are not privy to and are certainly not allowed access to. Remember that have protective moats that are deep and wide and far that really do erase their signature and their fingerprints. There's always a puppet master. There are always operational guides and masters that pull the strings on the marionettes. Remember that these things do not operate. There is no such thing in my mind as a lone wolf. Maybe one or two in, a century, but you must get your mind around. And here we're talking to creatives, but then we expand the conversation to all of us, especially in these moments that we live in. Tools of the trade. Remember and keep in mind that evil has an arsenal. I'm going to say that again. Remember and keep in mind that evil has an arsenal, and it has time honored and time tested and time proven techniques and devices that impact and affect lives and hurl cultures into planned chaos. Do not overlook that. Now we're going to be talking again of cultural blitzkrieg and tools of the trade. Cultural blitzkrieg and tools of the trade. Corruption. Always remember The human soul is purchasable. Always remember the human soul is purchasable. Human comforts and human sedition and human cravings and human covetousness, these remain timeless and have bottomless desires. Greed, avarice, wanton consumption. Never overlook or estimate the human condition and the human bottomless pit that seeks more. Sin for me has always had this connotation of more. I find this inside of my own soul. It is this ravenous desire, this sensational desire to consume and outperform and outbid and outstretch others. It has this lavishness that is really it's insipid, and it infects the human spirit, and it's ever present. Power and design for control. Power and design for control. Never, and I mean never, underestimate or forget or overlook to look at the design for control. Human desire and human design to control and bark at and impose will upon others, the leveling of power, the levels of stratification, the building out of a system that is, kind of a termite mound of bureaucrats and Manchurians that have as their intent to occupy some fiefdom. Never overlook these. The imposition of power and the stratification of power, these are always food for thought, and they're always relevant. Fiefdoms, and many kingdoms. Remember, there are always those who are willing and eager to trade comfort, my comfort, your freedom, my freedom, for their capacity to move and live without restraint. Do not overlook that. That the human spirit and the need and the seeking of a fiefdom and a mini kingdom and to bear a mini crown, there are those willing to trade almost anything, and certainly to trade your comfort and my comfort and your freedom and my freedom in exchange for their capacity to own large and larger tracts of land, our commerce, or to gain some leverage with the powers that be. We see this so prevalent in our world today. Slavishness and serfdom. Slavishness and serfdom. Always keep in mind that strong men and their corrupt supporters seek in the end total and full control of populations, with the unspoken and often cleverly hidden intent of creating this slave or serf state. If you don't see that happening, and the technological handcuffs and manacles that are emerging in our culture, then you need to take the blinders off. Sycophants and clawing sickos. Sycophants and clawing sickles. Always remember that these are legion. The human desire to step on others and step over others and rise to the top of tiny anthills and to have echelons of influence and titles and powers. These remain constant in every age. Heroic figure. It is into these kind of settings and the construction of these kind of settings that the heroic figure lives and emerges out of this societal primordial goo. Your hero figure endures these kinds of personal and cultural and religious sufferings. Your personal hero moves through these wicked wickets until one day God taps them on the shoulder or lifts them miraculously into some kind of a setting where they must become the missional character. Heroic figures emerge in the midst of and because of human imposed suffering. Life takeaways create settings and scenes that move past intolerance and into cruelties, build worlds that become so unlivable that the sole and remaining option left on the table are the choices between death and freedom. Death and freedom. Expand your thinking. Move past any self-imposed restrictions and slide into the world of unthinkable and even heretofore implausible, and start writing and start creating evil lurks. We must imagine and introduce evil that is so tangible, so palpable, so touchable that it evokes internal and external horrors. That is the world that we live in And that's the world of the creative, and I love that. And I have built 7 novels and working on number 8 right now. If you want to talk to me, it's so simple. Just drop me a DM here or go to thoughtpros.com, thoughtpros.com. Immerse yourself into your world now. I absolutely believe every single person is given a story to tell, at least one. And I believe it's our mission on this end of the camera to help and support and provide you tools and create an ecosystem, if you will, that allows that to emerge. If you want to speak to us, send us a note. If not, absorb the content and let it work in your soul. Till next time, I remind you, this is Moments with Dr. Steve. I am Dr. Steve Bonenberger. Travel far, my friend. Travel far.